Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is your second lecture and we will be continuing our discussion on budget line. Okay, so before moving to our topic, I would be discussing shift and movement. So these are the two terms that you might have encountered in your maths classes. Okay, so these are the terms that would be used in microeconomics. Okay, and even in macroeconomics, when you would be drawing some graphs of ISLM curve and so on, so there the movement and shift, that will be the basic thing, and that distinction is necessary if you want to look at the graph of the economic theory. ठीक है, तो जब भी आप कोई भी ग्राफ बनाते हो तो उस समय आपके वेरिएबल में जो भी चेंजेस हो रहे हैं उससे आपका ग्राफ जो है फंक्शन का या जो भी मान लो किसी भी वेरिएबल का ग्राफ है उस ग्राफ में शिफ्ट होगा या मूवमेंट होगा, इसको आपको जानना जरूरी है. ओके, सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर द मूवमेंट occurs along the curve. That means if you are given a curve, then the movement will be on that curve, meaning along the curve. Okay, and shift is of the curve. Okay, and this curve can be a straight line as well when the function is linear, like the case of budget line. So for shift, always remember, if you have two-dimensional space, that means if you have x-axis in the horizontal axis and y-axis as the vertical axis. Okay, in that case, suppose this is a curve. In that case, suppose x or y, either of these two changes, in that case you will have the movement along the curve. Or you can say if both changes, then in that case there might be the movement along the curve. Okay, so these are the scenarios. And when you will have the shifting of this curve, so any variable other than the variables on the axis is affecting the curve, in that case the curve will be set to shift. Okay, so shifting always occurs due to change in variables other than mentioned in the axis, mentioned on the axis, while movement along the curve occurs due to change in either of the axis. Or you can say change in variables represented on either of the axes. Okay, so this is what we mean. Now suppose in the last class we were discussing about a budget line and we had two goods x1 and x2. X1 was on your first axis and x2 was on your second axis, and you had some budget line like this. Okay, and we call this as A B. Now suppose if this is the case, in that case we have P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. Okay, so what are the two x's here? X1 and x2. Okay, so if there is change in these two variables, in that case we will have the movement along the curve. Okay, so there would be movement. So just think, if x1 is changed, if x1 is changed from say this point, you have some x1 value represented by a small x1 and you have another point here, and that is say x1 star. So movement from x1 to x1 star is with the change on the variable, change in the variable on the horizontal axis. Okay. Similarly, you have here x2 and here you have x2 star. Okay. So if that occurs, in that case, this will be movement along the curve. Okay. So the better would be to say due to change in both of the axes, variables on both of the axes. So this would be the correct grammar for this case. Now suppose what is the movement? Sorry, this is the movement and we have to see what is the shift in the budget line. So for the shift, always remember that if you have a budget line like this, now if you have the change in your income, okay, so if the income changes, in that case you will have the shift in the budget line. Why? Because this income is not changing either of the variables on the axis. Okay, so if this happens, in that case the change in m will always give the shift in the budget line. Okay, and that shift will depend on the effect of this change on the two variables defined on the axis. Now suppose if your income rises, in that case you can consume more of both the goods, or you can say more of either of the goods. Okay, these are the scenarios. Suppose if you want to consume only good one, in that case earlier you used to consume at this moment, or you can say you had this particular maximum point, and we had this point in the last discussion as m upon p1, which we called as horizontal intercept. ठीक है, यहां पे जो आपका पॉइंट था, similarly we call that point as vertical intercept and we had this point as m upon p2. जो इंटरसेप्ट का बात मैंने किया था, वर्टिकल पे होगा तो दैट विल बी वर्टिकल इंटरसेप्ट, हॉरिजॉन्टल एक्सिस पे होगा दैट वुड बी हॉरिजॉन्टल इंटरसेप्ट. ओके, सो this intercept m upon p1. Now suppose m increases, to m dash. In that case m dash is greater than m. In that case you will have m dash upon p1 being larger than m upon p1. That means there would be some maximum point lying to the right of this particular point. Okay, and similar case will be for this case. Here m upon p2 will be this point, so m dash upon p2 would be some point with higher level of x2. Okay, in that case increase in the income gives you higher level of consumption of these two goods if they are consumed independently. मतलब एक ही गुड को आप कंज्यूम कर रहे हो तो आप हायर लेवल का कंजम्पशन कर सकते हो. फिर उन दो पॉइंट्स को आप ज्वाइन करोगे तो यू विल गेट द बजट लाइन बीइंग right of this original budget line, or you can say above the budget line. Okay, or you can say this budget line has shifted outward. Okay, so first make the basic diagrams and then we will proceed further. So just take a note of all these things, then we will see how the effect of change in income gives you the shift in the budget line. So just take a note of it. So I had written due to change in either of the variables, because if you have a curve like this, okay, so suppose you have something like this or some other curve like this, in that case only one of the variable is changed. Okay, so for that case we in general write in variables on either of the axis. ठीक है, लेकिन इकोनॉमिक्स में मोस्टली दोनों वेरिएबल चेंज होते हैं क्योंकि इस तरह का बहुत एक्सेप्शन है. ठीक है, सो वी वेंट फॉर दिस केस. लेकिन अब इसका मतलब ये भी नहीं है कि दोनों वेरिएबल में चेंज होंगे तो आपका सिर्फ मूवमेंट होगा. ठीक है, ये भी हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे आज. सो ये याद रखना, और इसके साथ में आप चाहो तो लिख सकते हो बेटर रहेगा ईदर ऑफ द एक्सेस लिख दो फॉर हॉरिजॉन्टल एंड वर्टिकल लाइंस लिख देना। Horizontal curves are lines. Okay. So I am writing lines here. I hope आपने लिख लिया. So let's move ahead. So we had a budget line like this, where you have two goods x1 and x2. So you have budget line represented with AB. Okay. And suppose this was P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. Okay. Now just think, what would be the maximum value of this particular point on the horizontal axis? So this point would be M upon P1, what we called as horizontal intercept. That means the maximum amount of good 1 consumed when no good 2 is consumed. Okay. And this would be vertical intercept with the value M upon P2. Okay. So this we know. Now just think, if we have increase in the money income, in that case M dash is greater than M. Okay. And we also check another case when you have M double dash being less than M. That means here the money income has fallen, here the money income has increased. Okay. And this is the budget line representing P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. Okay. So this is the original budget line. So you have two cases, first case and second case. अब दो केस है आपके पास, जब इनकम बढ़ता है तब क्या होगा, जब इनकम कम होती है तब क्या होगा. सो जस्ट थिंक, इफ योर इनकम हैज इंक्रीज्ड, इन दैट केस suppose this is the case, in that case you will have P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M dash. This would be on the new budget line. Okay. Why? Because the prices are remaining the same. Okay. If price is not changed, so we will use P1 and P2 as it is, and x1 x2 were the representational thing. Okay, they were the variables. Okay, so we would mean that x1 and x2 have varying values. Means you have different values of x1 and x2 फॉर दिस ओरिजिनल बजट लाइन. मतलब इस बजट लाइन पे x1 x2 की वैल्यू बहुत सारी हो सकती है, ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही वैल्यू है. ठीक है. ये वेरिएबल जब भी होगा, वेरिएबल का मतलब ही है वेरी करना. ठीक है, मतलब अलग अलग वैल्यू ले लेगी वो. ओके. सो इफ दिस इज द केस, इन दैट केस if you consume no x, then you will have x2 equal to M dash upon P2. So this would be greater than M upon P2. Okay. So there would be some point here which would be M dash upon P2. Similarly, if you have x2 equal to 0, in that case you will have x1 equal to M dash upon P1, and this would be greater than M upon P1. Why? Because P2 in the denominator is same for these two fractions. Okay. But M dash is greater than N, meaning that this fraction is greater than this fraction. Similarly for this case. Okay. So you will have some intercept here with the value M dash upon P1. And if you join these two, then you will get the equation of this budget line giving you the new budget line. Okay, so that would be something like, say, if this is the case, in that case, if this point is with the value m upon p1 and this has m upon p2, this is x2, this is x1. Now suppose if this is having the value of intercept m dash upon p2, and here you have m dash upon p1. If you join these two, in that case you get a new budget line. So here for this case you have p1 x1 plus p2 x2 equal to m. For this case you will have p1 x1 plus p2 x2 equal to m dash, and you have m dash greater than m. Okay, now just think, if you have the lower income, in that case you will have something like p1 x1 plus p2 x2 equal to m double dash. So that will give you, when x1 is equal to 0, you will have x2 equal to m double dash upon p2, and this would be less than m upon p2. Why? Because m double dash is less than m. And similarly, when you have x2 equal to 0, in that case you have x1 equal to m double dash upon p1, which would be less than m upon p1. Okay, so this will give you some points like this. Suppose this is the point, and here you have the value m double dash upon p2. Here you have the value m double dash upon p1. If you join these 2 points, you get the new budget line with the equation p1 x1 plus p2 x2 equal to m double dash. Now you would ask that why I took only 2 points, because you know that the budget line is a linear function, and for linear function the graph is of a straight line, and you know any 2 points have a unique line passing through those 2 points. That means between 2 points there is a unique line passing through those 2 points. So if we draw a line passing through these 2 points, in that case we get a single line. Okay, and that single line will have this particular equation. Okay, so always remember, with increase in income, what is the change? The budget line shifts outward, and you could see that the slope remains the same in all the 3 cases. How? Because we had the slope of the budget line having the value minus p1 upon p2, and in this case our price has not changed. If your price has not changed, in that case the value of p1 and p2 will remain the same. If p1 and p2 remains the same, in that case the ratio of p1 by p2 will remain the same. In that case you will have the same slope for all the 3 budget lines. Okay, so whatever the shift of this budget line would be, that would be a parallel shift. Why parallel? Because the slope remains the same. If the slope remains the same, then the shift of the curve will be parallel. Okay, so in that case the budget line shifts outward parallelly. So I would write this as shifts outward parallelly, or you can say shifts parallelly outward. And with fall in income, the budget line shifts parallelly inward. So always remember, when the prices remain the same, only money income is changed. In that case, the shift in the budget line would be parallel. Okay. So what was the case here? You had the case when you have, for this case, your M changes, that means income changes, and prices remain the same. So you might have heard a term called ceteris paribus. What does it mean? It means keeping all other things constant. So if we say that the money income is changed, ceteris paribus, in that case we are saying that only money income is changed. Okay, no other variable is changed. In that case, you will have the statement like this: for the consumer, there was the change in money income. उसके बाद रहेगा आपका कोमा. In that case, you will have ceteris paribus. That means with all the other variables remaining the same. Okay, so just take a note of all these things. Okay, let's move to another change. Suppose if one of the prices change and the income remains the same, then what happens? Before moving to that, let's discuss one thing on slopes. Always remember, if in absolute value, if slopes have higher absolute values, in that case, the curve will be steeper. Okay, so higher slope means steeper curve. Now, for the lower slope, you have what you call flatter curve. Always remember this. So if you have a scenario like this, P1 upon P2, and if you have P1 dash upon P2, and you have P1 dash being greater than P1, in that case, you will have the same denominator here, but the numerator are different. So if the two numerators are different, in that case, if P1 dash is greater than P1, in that case, this will be the relationship between these two fractions. That means P1 upon P2 would be less than P1 dash upon P2. Okay. So if this is the case, in that case, this has higher value than this. In that case, you can say, if we talk about the slopes, P1 upon P2 in negative and P1 dash upon P2 in negative, in that case, the slope is higher in this case. Okay, we are only checking for the absolute values. Okay, so if this is the case, then this will give you a steeper curve and this will give you flatter curve. Okay, so this will have flatter budget line because this was the slope of your budget line. Okay, and this will give you a steeper budget line. Further, if we have a change, suppose there is change in price P1, okay, or you can say, better way to say is change in price of the first good. Ceteris paribus, meaning all the other things are constant, which are the other variables P2 and M. Okay, ceteris variables. So I said here you have P2 and M as the same. In that case, you have the equation as P1x1 plus P2x2 equal to M as the original budget line. Okay. Now suppose the change in price of the first good can be in two cases. So that can be when you have P1 dash greater than P1 and you have P1 double dash less than P1. Okay, these are the two cases. Either the price will increase or the price will fall. That is the case. Now you had the budget line like this case. You had the original budget looking like this, A and B here. Okay, and you had, let's remove A and B. So we have to write this as M upon P2 and M upon P1 to remove the confusion for points A and B. I remove them. Okay. So now think, अगर मान लो आपका price increase हो गया, in that case P1 dash is greater than P1. So this will have the new budget line on the new price thing. ओके सो नया प्राइस पे आपको नया बजट लाइन फेस करना पड़ेगा. आप मार्केट गए तो आप पुराने प्राइस से आप कमोडिटी तो बाय नहीं कर रहे हो. सो यू आर फेसिंग न्यू बजट कंस्ट्रेंट. क्यों न्यू बजट कंस्ट्रेंट? बिकॉज द मार्केट प्राइस इज चेंज्ड. इफ द मार्केट प्राइस इज चेंज्ड, इन दैट केस योर बजट कंस्ट्रेंट विल आल्सो चेंज. तो आपका बजट जब लाइन चेंज होगा या बजट कंस्ट्रेंट चेंज होगा, सो यू विल हैव, suppose this is your case 1. In that case you will have something like P1 dash x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. In that case, if we are talking about this intercept, okay, so this intercept will have the value, say horizontal intercept. In that case, horizontal intercept would have the value equal to M upon P1 dash. Why P1 dash? Because at new price level, this will be the maximum consumption of the first good. Okay. Now think, if the denominator is increased as compared to the previous case, so P1 dash is greater than P1 and numerator remains the same. So we have the case like this, M upon P1 and M upon P1 dash. And we know that denominator is higher in the second case. That means P1 dash is greater than P1. So this would be the case. Okay. Why? Because when denominator is higher, in that case, the fraction has lower value. So we will have some intercept here. So that would be M upon P1 dash. Okay. Now, suppose for the second case, if we want to find the horizontal intercept, in that case we can have similar value giving you something like M upon P1 double dash. Okay, and you know that if you compare M upon P1 with M upon P1 double dash, you know that P1 double dash is less than P1. So जब denominator यहाँ का कम होगा, that means this fraction is higher than this fraction. मतलब जब P1 डबल डैश छोटा है तो ये वाला फ्रैक्शन ज्यादा वैल्यू देगा. That means there would be some point here that would be giving you the value M upon P1 डबल डैश. ठीक है, ये तो हॉरिजॉन्टल इंटरसेप्ट की बात हो गई. What about the vertical intercept? So vertical intercept में देखोगे, so the price P2 remains the same. ओके, सो प्राइस P2 रिमेन्स द सेम. तो जब भी आपका सेकेंड गुड की प्राइस देखोगे तो तीनों केस में जो ओरिजिनल बजट लाइन में क्या था, ओरिजिनली M अपॉन P2. ठीक है, अब नए वाले केस में जब आप बनाओगे तो M अपॉन P2 ही होगा ना, क्योंकि प्राइस तो सेकेंड गुड का चेंज नहीं हुआ. इफ द प्राइस ऑफ द सेकेंड गुड हैजंट चेंज्ड, even the money income hasn't changed, why would the ratio M by P2 change? That won't change. So यही पे रहेगा. Okay, so vertical intercept will not change when only price of the first good is changed. Okay, so जिस commodity का प्राइस चेंज हुआ है उसका इंटरसेप्ट तो चेंज होगा, लेकिन दूसरे गुड का नहीं होगा। क्यों नहीं होगा? क्योंकि उसमें जो रेशियो मिल रहा था एम बाई पी टू का, ना एम चेंज हो रहा है ना पी टू चेंज हो रहा। जब इन दोनों में कोई चेंज ही नहीं है तो इंटरसेप्ट चेंज होगा ही नहीं। ठीक है, सो दिस इज द केस। नाउ दिस विल बी द पॉइंट फॉर ऑल द थ्री केसेस। सो ओरिजिनल बजट लाइन पे तो है ही, अब इन दोनों बजट लाइन के लिए भी होगा। सो यू विल हैव समथिंग लाइक this as the budget line and this would be another budget line. Okay, so मान लो मैं इसको बोलूं BL1, इसको बोलूं BL2, इसको बोलूं BL3. BL is for budget line. Okay, so BL1 is the budget line with the equation P1x1 plus P2x2 equal to M. You have your second budget line 2, giving you the relation P1 dash x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. You have P1 dash greater than P1. Okay, and you have your BL3, that is budget line 3, represented as P1 x1, where you have P1 changed to P1 double dash, so P1 double dash x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. In that case, you have P1 double dash less than P1. So this is what you have. Now, if you have this shift, or you can say the change in the shape of the budget line, we call this type of change as pivot of the curve. Okay, so this is called pivot of the curve, and the pivot of the curve has occurred on the x-axis. Okay, so we will say pivot along the x-axis. Just take a note of all these things, then I will make you write some of the statements. Okay, just take a note of it. Chalo. So we had the discussion like this. You had x1, you had x2. Okay, so this was your original budget line, and you had this thing. Okay, so suppose if you had your budget line represented as say A and B, and you had AB double dash, here you had AB dash. So dash is prime. Okay, जो कि आपने डेरिवेटिव में पढ़ा होगा, डैश को आप लोग क्या बोलते थे? प्राइम बोलते थे. ठीक है, लेकिन हम लोग डेरिवेटिव में नहीं बात करें, so I am using dash. So this is what you have. So AB is original budget line, and AB dash is when P1 is increased, and AB double dash is when P1 is decreased. So if P1 is increased, in that case you have the pivot of budget line inward along the x-axis. So when you would be writing the effect of such changes for the questions, then you would use this word, pivot of the budget line inward along the x-axis. Okay, and similarly here you would use pivot of the budget line outward along the x-axis. Okay, now let's discuss the slope. So if you could see about this budget line AB dash, in that case AB dash is looking steeper than the original budget line. Okay, so you have this giving you the steeper budget line, and you have, for this case, you have flatter budget line. So let's see how this has happened. So for steeper and for flatter, we have to check for the slope of the budget lines. So suppose you had P1 x1 plus P2 x2. In that case, this was equal to M, and slope of this budget line was minus P1 upon P2. Similarly, if you have P1 x1 plus P2 x2 with price of one good, that is first good being P1 dash, okay, in that case this would be the new budget line, and this new budget line will have the slope being equal to minus P1 dash upon P2. So you know P1 dash is greater than P1 and P1 double dash is less than P1. So when P1 dash is greater, when P1 dash is greater than P1, in that case, in absolute terms, the slope has higher value in the second budget line. Okay, so for this case, you have higher slope. We are talking about the magnitude of the slope. Magnitude means absolute value. So you would use this thing. Similarly, if you have something like P1 double dash x1 plus P2 x2 इक्वल टू m, तो इसका स्लोप क्या होगा? आपको सिमिलरली निकालोगे तो यू विल गेट द स्लोप एज माइनस P1 डबल डैश अपॉन P2. ठीक है, और ये स्लोप क्या होगा? एब्सोल्यूट में लोअर वैल्यू देगा इसके स्लोप से. ठीक है, सो दिस विल हैव लोअर slope. In that case, it will have the flatter budget line. In this case, you will have a steeper budget line. So if you look at the budget line in these three cases, then you see that the original budget line, if it is compared with the new budget lines, in that case, when the price is increased, the budget line is steeper. When the price is reduced, then the budget line is flatter. ठीक है, आप लोग स्ट्रेट लाइन बनाना, मेरे को बनाने में थोड़ा सा मतलब सही से लाइन नहीं ड्रॉ हुआ, ठीक है, लेकिन वो स्ट्रेट लाइन है. ठीक है, सो ऐसे निकालोगे. नाउ सपोज इफ द सिमिलर थिंग गोज फॉर द सेकेंड गुड, तो आप निकाल सकते हो. बस मैं थोड़ा सा एक और चीज बताता हूं. सेकेंड गुड में जब P2 इज चेंज्ड, P1 M remains same. In that case, you will have a budget line looking like this. ठीक है, so you will have something like this. तो यहां से चेंज होगा. ठीक है, so let me use this. सो इस वाले केस में क्या है, अगर आपका बीच वाला ओरिजिनल बजट लाइन है, सो वी हैड ए बी. अब यहाँ पे ए डैश आ रहा है और यहाँ पे ए डबल डैश आ रहा है. ठीक है, तो सिमिलर एनालॉजी उसका रहेगा, बस आपका करस्पॉन्डिंगली आप चेंज कर लेना. ठीक है, जब ए डैश कब आ रहा है, जब P2 डैश इज ग्रेटर देन P2 और P2 डबल डैश इज लेस देन P2. इस तरह के चेंज को बोलेंगे पिवट ऑफ द कर्व, that is the budget line along the y-axis. अभी तक किसी को कोई डाउट है तो प्लीज बताओ, अभी मैं हूं, क्योंकि यहां पे कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं होनी चाहिए. ठीक है। सो आपने देखा जब एक ही प्राइस चेंज होगा तो पीवट होगा बजट लाइन का, और जिस कमोडिटी का प्राइस चेंज होगा उसी एक्सिस पे आपका बजट का पीवट होगा, मतलब बजट आपका चेंज होगा। नाउ सपोज इफ both prices are changed in the same proportion. So just suppose it is P1x1 plus P2x2 equal to M. Okay. Now suppose if both the prices has increased by a factor of T. Okay. So if you went to the market and you could see that the prices were doubled in the market, then your T would be 2. Okay. I am saying that the prices of the two goods that you consume, their prices have doubled. Okay. So let's see. So here and here, the prices will be double of what you had earlier. ठीक है. अगर हम लोग T as a factor use कर रहे हैं, in that case the prices would be T times the original prices. Okay. So suppose the prices have been multiplied by T. Okay. मैं सिंपल वर्ड्स में लिख रहा ताकि आपको ये पता हो कि कैसे क्या करना। अगर प्राइस डबल हो गया तो क्या मतलब हुआ, डबल हो गया मतलब 2 से मल्टीप्लाई हुआ। हाफ हो गया मतलब हाफ से आप क्या करोगे, मल्टीप्लाई करोगे या 2 से डिवाइड करोगे। ठीक है। सो इन दैट केस यू विल हैव द प्राइस एज TP1, दिस वुड बी द प्राइस ऑफ द फर्स्ट गुड, multiplied to x1, then you will have P2 multiplied to x2 equal to M. Okay. So this will give you T times P1 x1 plus T times P2 x2 equal to M. So this will give you T taken as common, then you will have P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. In that case, you will have P1 x1 plus P2 x2 इक्वल टू M अपॉन T। ठीक है। इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, अगर सेम रेशियो में अगर दोनों प्राइस चेंज हुआ, इसका मतलब है आपका प्राइस एक तरह से सेम ही है, और चेंज क्या हुआ, आपका इनकम चेंज हुआ। अगर T ग्रेटर देन 1 है, इफ T इज ग्रेटर देन 1, देन आपका मनी इनकम फॉल करेगा, then you will have M upon T less than M. Okay. So there would be shift of the budget line inward, and that would be parallel shift. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ P1 P2 तो सेम ही आ रहा ना, तो स्लोप बजट लाइन का क्या होगा, सेम ही रह जाएगा। इसको अगर आप मान लो M डैश ले लो, ठीक है, मैंने मान सकता हूं मैं, यानी कि नया इनकम है। ठीक है। नाउ सपोज if you have T less than 1, then you have M upon T greater than M। यानी कि इसमें क्या हुआ, आपका बजट लाइन आउटवर्ड शिफ्ट हो गया पैरेलली। सो वी हैड दिस एज गिविंग यू द केस, so this was original budget line AB, so you have this case and you have this case। ठीक है। सो ये कब हुआ, जब आपका T लेस देन 1 है, T लेस देन 1 है। फॉर दिस यू हैव T लेस देन 1 एंड फॉर दिस यू हैव T ग्रेटर देन 1 एंड दिस इज द ओरिजिनल वन। ठीक है। सो आपका ए बी से क्या हो गया, A डैश B डैश फिर A डबल डैश B डबल डैश। ठीक है। अब आप पूछोगे कि स्लोप में चेंज क्यों नहीं हुआ, चलो स्लोप भी देख लेते हैं। हमारा न्यू बजट लाइन ये है या ये है, दोनों में से सेम कुछ भी ले सकते हो। सो इसके लिए स्लोप वुड बी what? Minus of P1 upon P2. So what is new P1? That is T times P1. What is new price of the second good? That is T times P2. अगर इसका रेशियो निकालोगे that you will get as minus P1 upon P2. This is the same slope as the original budget line. मतलब आपका बजट लाइन का स्लोप सेम रह गया, तो आपका जो शिफ्ट होगा वो तो पैरेलल ही होगा ना, तो आपका स्लोप सेम रहेगा, सिर्फ चेंज क्या होगा? इंटरसेप्ट. इंटरसेप्ट क्यों चेंज होगा? क्योंकि ये हमने देख लिया, और जब भी मनी इनकम चेंज होता है तो आपका इंटरसेप्ट ही चेंज होता है, ये तो हमने पहले डिस्कस कर ही लिया है. तो आपको अगर दिया होगा प्राइस सेम प्रोपोर्शन में चेंज होंगे, तो आपका प्राइस रेशियो चेंज नहीं हो रहा है. प्राइस रेशियो चेंज नहीं हो रहा है, इसका मतलब है स्लोप ऑफ द बजट लाइन इज नॉट चेंज्ड, एंड स्लोप ऑफ द बजट लाइन इज नॉट चेंज्ड, then only there would be change in the budget line, shifting either outward or shifting inward, and that too parallelly. Okay, so you would say that price ratio remains the same, and in this case you have slope of the budget remains the same. Just take a note of it. इसके साथ में आपको मैं प्रैक्टिस के लिए दे रहा हूं कुछ. Try to draw budget lines when जो डेल्टा है, मैं डेल्टा वर्ड यूज करूंगा, दैट वुड बी फॉर चेंज. ओके, यू हैव डेल्टा P1, दिस इज केस 1, लेस देन 0, डेल्टा P2 greater than 0, delta P1 greater than 0, delta P2 less than 0, delta P1 greater than 0, delta P2 greater than 0, and delta P1, first part, delta P1 is greater than delta P2, and second part, delta P1 less than delta P2, and fourth case is delta P1 less than 0, delta P2 less than 0, and you have the first case, delta P1 is less than delta P2, second, delta P1 is greater than delta P2. ठीक है, यहां पे एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू के टर्म्स में ही आप समझना. ठीक है, इसको आप क्या करोगे, इसको आप ट्राई करोगे, बजट लाइन कैसा बनेगा, और उसके बाद पीडीएफ बना करके मुझे भेजोगे. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप बनाकर छोड़ दोगे, मैं वेरीफाई करूंगा ना कि आपने सही बनाया या नहीं बनाया. ठीक है, सो इसको एक बार नोट डाउन करके इसको भी लिख लो. इसके बाद एक छोटा सा टॉपिक है जो न्यूमरेटर गुड का हमने देखा था, उसको हम लोग डिस्कस कर लेंगे, फिर उसके बाद आज की क्लास वाइंड अप करेंगे. जल्दी से नोट डाउन करो, 1 मिनट का टाइम दे रहा मैं. चलो, we have the budget line as P1 x1 plus P2 x2 equal to M. Okay, now suppose if we divide both the sides by M, sorry, by m. Okay, in that case you can get this as p1 x1 upon m plus p2 x2 upon m equal to 1, because m by m is 1. Or you can say p1 upon, so better let me write this as m upon m. p1 upon m times x1 plus p2 upon m into x2 equal to 1. Okay, so this is when your income is assumed to be of 1 unit. Okay, in that case the price would be p1 upon m and p2 upon m for the first and second good respectively. Okay, so this is one scenario. And second is, if we divide both the sides by P2, in that case, we get the equations giving you P1 upon P2 x1 plus P2 upon P2, giving you this case and m upon P2. So you have this as P1 upon P2 x1 plus x2 equal to m upon P2. Now, recall from our previous discussion, we had the case of P1 x1 plus x2 equal to m. Okay. Now, I was saying that this x2 is the numerator good. With the numerator price, that means the price of this good being equal to 1. Okay. So now suppose if I write this as P1 dash x1 plus x2 equal to m dash, okay, then it's okay. These two are the representational notations, so it works. So now suppose if we compare these two, then we can say that for P1 dash you have P1 upon P2. For this case you have the price being equal to 1 and your m dash is equal to m upon P2. Okay, so this is the case, and you have the price of second good is equal to 1. ठीक है, so इसको बोलते हैं price of the second good has been put equal to 1, meaning that the second good is being treated as the numerator good, and that numerator good has the price being 1, and that is called the numerator price being equal to 1. Okay, so the price of the second good is equal to 1. So we say we have second good as the numerator and numerator price is 1. So always remember, you will have the price of the numerator being equal to 1. Why this is done? Because when you are doing some calculations, then sometimes it is easier to carry one of the prices being equal to 1. So it eases your calculation. ठीक है, इसका हम लोग कुछ एग्जांपल करेंगे आगे जब सॉल्यूशन बनाएंगे, जब कंज्यूमर के इक्विलिब्रियम पे बात करेंगे उस समय आप फिर से इसको डिस्कस करोगे. ठीक है, ये सारी चीजें यूज होंगी, इसलिए ये चीज पहले से आप माइंड में देख लो कब क्या चीजें हो रही है, कैसे कैसे तरीके हैं. ठीक है, इफ यू नो ऑल द theories or all the methods for the solution, then you know that how the equilibrium is to be reached. ठीक है, तो आपके लिए भी इजी रहेगा. ठीक है, इसको नोट डाउन करो, और कोई भी डाउट है तो आप मुझे बताओ. अब 2 क्लासेस हो गए, पहले वाले क्लास को भी देखना है क्योंकि उसमें मैंने बेसिक्स बताया कि कैसे क्या चीजें आपको सोच कर जाननी है. ठीक है, सो अभी तक इसको रिवाइज करोगे और जो भी मैंने क्वेश्चंस अभी दिए हैं उसको आप बनाओगे, पीडीएफ बनाकर मुझे भेजोगे. तब तक के लिए टेक केयर, बाय बाय. इफ यू हैव एनी डाउट जस्ट लेट मी नो, आई एम हियर. इसमें ना प्राइस ऑफ द सेकेंड गुड जो है 1 हमने ट्रीट किया है, अब इसको हम लोग न्यूमरेटर गुड बना रहे हैं. न्यूमरेयर गुड बन जाएगा तो हमारा कैलकुलेशन इजी हो जाएगा, ठीक है। इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि इसका प्राइस 1 हो गया, हम लोग उसको ट्रीटमेंट के लिए हम लोग यूज कर रहे हैं ताकि हमारा कैलकुलेशन इजी रहे, ठीक है। दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव इन दिस केस। आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड इट।